You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron. Now here's your host, Ethan Haristadoulou.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Greeks Gridiron. I'm Ethan Haristadoulou. It's Thursday morning, which means coming off the heels of some NFL on Christmas, we got to talk tonight's Thursday night matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the Chicago Bears as Seattle goes into Chicago to try and keep their playoff hopes alive. Just as a disclaimer, I am currently recording this on Tuesday at 5:24 p.m. So to give you an idea, I'm a little bit ahead of things, just trying to get ahead with the holidays and whatnot. So injury stuff and all that, I can't really take into account for completely yet just because we're so far in advance from the game. So just keep that in mind. And if there's a stat or two maybe that I rattle off that gets negated or something or changes because of the Christmas games, they haven't happened yet as of me recording this. That all being said, I invite you all, comment down below, who do you got for Thursday Night Football? And just, I guess, another reminder really quick, I'm not a betting channel. Never claimed to be. I'm not a guru. I'm just a guy that enjoys talking some football with you all. So please, please, please keep that in mind. I am picking a straight up winner here, nothing more, nothing less, for literal fun. Looking at this matchup, though, the Seattle Seahawks going into Chicago to take on the Bears. As I mentioned before, simply put, this is a must-win game for Seattle. Winning out is quite honestly the simplest path the Seahawks can take. There's a few different ways that they can find themselves in the playoffs when things are all said and done, but simply just winning out is by far the simplest of them all. You win out and the case is essentially made for you. There are some strength of schedule tiebreaker stuff that needs to shake out, I guess, in a certain way. So I guess there's some very slim possibility based off how games break these next couple of weeks that Seattle could win out and still not make the playoffs and lose it, I guess, to the Rams. I don't know if I was misreading that wrong or whatnot, but that's just how I was understanding that. Maybe I misread it and maybe Seattle winning out is all it needs to be, but it looked like there was a little bit of a asterisk note kind of thing going, strength of schedule tiebreaker is something that needs to go their way as well. That all being said, first thing that I'm looking at here, and it could end up being a bit of a mismatch on Chicago's end, and granted, for what it is worth, this defense, since Matt Eberflus has been fired, has not looked really good. It seems like the discipline is a bit gone from them, and they are allowing more and more, it feels, each and every game, each and every week, further departing from the firing of Eberflus. Geno Smith has had a bit of an up and down season. 17 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, about a 70% completion rate though, 90 passer rating, and then on top of that, he's currently at this moment in time third in passing yards total. Now, when you look at how he's played against the pressure, that has been a bit of an issue for him. Luckily, though, Chicago, like I said, has been kind of struggling in a lot of facets, and making quarterbacks uncomfortable is not necessarily the name of their defensive game at this current point in the season right now. But if they can get to him, they can throw him off. He's thrown 10 interceptions under pressure this season. His completion rate is around 54% when he's under pressure as well. So there is that. Now, the reason I bring that up is because there is a bit of an issue, though, with the way Chicago plays defense and just how well Geno Smith plays against said defensive scheme. The Bears running zone coverage on nearly 80% of their snaps this season. Geno Smith has the fifth best completion percentage against zone coverage, sitting at 73.7%. If they can't pressure him and get after him, and they're just dropping back into zone, Geno Smith is pretty good at reading zones and working through his progressions as he needs to, so he could be dicing up this Bears defense all game long. So definitely something worth keeping an eye on there. The other thing that I'm looking at here, of course, Caleb Williams on the other side. He's done a really good job of protecting the football this season, and he's really been an interesting watch, I feel like, to put it simply, especially considering just the amount of pressure that he has gone up against this season. He's thrown 7 touchdowns, just a single interception, but his completion percentage is at 47.7% while he's under that pressure, and that is 22nd amongst qualified passers, according to Next Gen Stats. But he is also a rookie quarterback that has been pressured the 7th most out of any quarterback this season, once again amongst qualified passers. If they can even just somewhat protect him, there is a chance with how he's looked when he's not under pressure that maybe he finds some success, maybe gets the Seahawks caught up a little bit, back him up against the wall type of deal. We've had some good games from Caleb Williams this year where he's thrown the ball very well when he's comfortable, but the key word there is just when. Seattle is 10th in pressure rate, 12th in total pressures this season, but they have not necessarily been great when it comes to bringing down the quarterback. They bring a lot of pressure, but they don't necessarily finish. Uchenna Nwosu came back about 3 weeks ago from injury. He's still working his way back into things. The team only has 5 sacks in those 3 weeks as well. So this game, in my opinion, could basically just come down to, simply put, the ability of the Chicago Bears and pass protection for Caleb Williams. If they can't protect him, they can't keep him from being pressured, it could be a problem here. And this could potentially be kind of like a get-right game for the Seahawks as they try and make this trek into a playoff push here these last couple of games, maybe like a get-right situation for the pass rush altogether. So definitely something worth thinking about there. The other thing, and I teetered on whether this was worth bringing up or not, because again, we're a couple of days away from the game still as of me recording this here. So I decided to go ahead and at least bring it up, because if it ends up going in the more worse direction, then it's definitely relevant to the conversation here. Obviously, we just talked a lot of quarterback stuff here, and can they be protected, the mismatching with the way the Chicago Bears play defense, but it sounds like it's expected to be about 40 degrees and about a 40% chance of rain. Now, if over the next couple days that percentage goes up, maybe we're talking 70, 80% chance of rain, and there's a good shot we end up getting some rain during that game, well, then things get a little bit interesting here. Then you're starting to look more at the running backs, what these two teams can do on the ground, and to be honest, both of these teams have not really been great running the football. Chicago's rushing offense, 25th in rushing yards per game this season. DeAndre Swift has been their lead back, and he's had some bursts of excitement throughout the season, but over the last 5-6 weeks or so, it's been really tough sledding for him, barely even being able to scratch 40 yards in a game rushing. His yards per attempt on the season averages 3.8, so it's been a rough going for Chicago running the football, and that kind of just goes back to the offensive line struggles that they've been dealing with this season. Seattle has been even worse. They're 30th in rushing yards per game this season. Kenneth Walker has been banged up. He exited the game against Minnesota after coming back in that game in a return, and then ultimately having to exit and not returning. So you got to keep an eye on his health now. Is he going to be able to play on a short week at this point? Who really knows? But it's one of those things where if the rain comes in, you shift the focus a little bit from the passing game, because obviously games get messy, they get sloppy, it gets harder to throw the football, especially if the rain starts really coming down. And then you start looking at, all right, well, what can these two teams do on the ground? And it's kind of a crapshoot. You have two teams that are not really good at running the football either going head to head here. This game is maybe not quite as cut and dry as you would think it would be, just because of some of the struggles Seattle has faced. But I do like what leans in their favor. And yes, they're traveling. They're going into Chicago for this football game, but the Bears have been in a really bad way basically all season long, and it has gotten worse, and it almost feels like this team may have quit since Matt Eberflus has been fired. It was a much-needed firing, don't get me wrong, but they were at least competitive to the very end of football games while Eberflus was still there. Yes, games were being blown, and I'm not going to, sit here and deny that, but they were fighting to the finish line of every single game. It was just those late game situations were not being managed well. Now, Chicago is just kind of getting their teeth kicked in, and it feels like you're maybe just kind of sitting back and waiting to see what's next as far as disasters are concerned. So I'm going to go Seattle on this game. I really wish I could lean Chicago, but the way I see it, if again, and then the big thing for me is just Geno Smith and his ability to attack the way this Bears plays defense, especially if it doesn't end up raining and, this 40% chance of rain evaporates in the next couple of days and it's just a clear night. It could be a really good ball game for Geno Smith, a good get-right game for him, a good get-right for the Seahawks pass rush as they get ready for their divisional clash next week as well. So I like the Seahawks. I like them 20-19. I could see the Bears maybe finding some success here and there, and then the weird scoring at 19 being maybe going for 2 here or there and failing type of deal, just to try to, catch back up to the Seahawks. But ultimately, this is two teams in two different places. You have a team fighting for a playoff spot versus a team that's probably picking, if not the top 5, definitely within the top 10. And there's always room for the upset, but I'm going to go the safe pick. I'll take Seattle. Again, 29-19 for the W. But again, let me know in the comment section down below, what are your thoughts? What are your opinions on the matchup? What do you like about this game? What are you looking forward to seeing play out here? Fire away. Let me hear from you all. But as always, if you made it to the end, I greatly appreciate it. Remainder of predictions will be out tomorrow. And if you did not check out the Christmas predictions and you're curious to what I got, obviously can't update my record because I don't know what it's going to be yet recording prior to Christmas. Make sure you check out those predictions to see where I stood on those. But as always, thank you. I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.